After an action-packed week one, we're heading into week two of the LCS, and I'm here to tell you who's going to win and who you should be betting on. So let's talk about that on the LCS report. Welcome back, everybody. It is LCS week two here on the LCS report, and I just want to let you guys know how my record is doing for my picks throughout the whole year, so that you guys can keep me honest. If I have good weeks, if I have bad weeks. I didn't have a great week in the LEC. That league is crazy right now, but I had a good week in the LCS in week one. I went 7-3, so I'm going to be constantly updating all of this for you guys to see. And if my trust score starts going down, then that is what it is. But as always, I like to lead off these episodes with a quick reminder. Any betting or anything that you're seeing on here is with a company that we are not associated with. The Game House does not have any dealings with them currently. But hey, if you're out there watching DraftKings or GG.bet, or if I end up changing it to somebody else, whoever that may be, and you feel like sponsoring these shows, then you could reach out. I think we could get something worked out. With that, I also want to remind you guys that if you think you might have a gambling addiction, or if you have something like that, turn away now and call the gambling hotline. The national hotline is 1-800-522-4700. Again, that's 1-800-522-4700 if you feel like you are dealing or struggling with a gambling addiction. All right, moving on here. Like I said, 7-3 in week one. I'm feeling pretty good. So let's head into week two. Lots of great matchups. It just happens to be that the way I wrote things, it kind of all aligns with who I'm picking to win on the right side. I'm going to spend a lot less time on this one. I want to try to keep these episodes crispy, about 15 minutes or less if I can. So I'm going to quickly go through these. CLG, C9. I'm going C9. I think CLG is a great team. I think that they are potentially going to push C9 to the brink, but it feels like C9 are already kind of in a good form. They seem to be playing well together. Fudge had an outstanding week. I doubt we're going to see him getting Cassante again, but I don't think it was just him. Blabber played really well. Diplex played really well. And Berserker and Sven just kind of were allowed to do their thing. There was no real pressure on them to carry because, well, the rest of the map was doing really well too. They're not necessarily the most complete team yet because they still have to implement Diplex, and I think Sven still has to get better at certain areas of his gameplay, learning the support role. But overall, this team is very, very strong. I've got a power rankings coming out at some point today, and they will be number one, I think deservedly so. But this week's going to be a little tougher than last week, so I'm really interested to see how they do, but I got them beating CLG. Next is FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians. We have seen that Golden Guardians can play well. I don't know who their jungler is still going to be yet. I don't think it's been announced. I don't know if it'll be Gory. I don't know if it'll be Young. I think they're still kind of maybe wrestling with that, even as they get ready for their games on Thursday. But Young played well. He was surprising. I think he earned the right to start getting some looks from other teams potentially for the future. So when he does get sent back down to Academy, if he can dominate, good for him. But FlyQuest just looked awesome. Prince was really good. I think Impact reminded everybody why he's so good. Spica was able to facilitate on the Maokai. Wouldn't be surprised to see that get banned away from him as well. But I got FlyQuest pulling it out here pretty easily. I think Vikla, while not having a great first game, had a much better second game. I expect game 3 to only be better for him as well. And, at support, it kind of really doesn't matter. Whoever plays for them will be great. Dignitas versus 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves are pulling this one out. Dignitas had 9 kills last week. 9. They don't look like they're doing all that well. I think they're kind of getting overwhelmed in almost every area except, weirdly enough, top lane. But I think this is a big win here for 100 Thieves. I think we see, Doublelift potentially pop off again. It was good to see him kind of get back into a better form than what we saw in his first game against C9. Immortals versus Team Liquid. Immortals are the worst team in the league. Team Liquid had a surprise 0-2 last week, but I think Team Liquid's a lot better than that. I don't know that Immortals are much better. I think they're better, but still not much better than what they showed in week one. I think TL take that one pretty easily. Last one here is TSM versus EG. Surprise team in TSM going 2-0. Evil Geniuses having a surprise loss at the end of last week. I think that Evil Geniuses are going to come out ripping and roaring, and I think that you're going to see JoJo Pune specifically have a much better game to start. I think TSM are going to hang in there. I'm not really sure, like 100% sure the EG are going to win this one. I think they're the better team, but TSM have found a way to just be better than the sum of their parts. They remind me a lot of CLG from last year, but for right now, I'm going to go with Evil Geniuses. On to Friday's games. FlyQuest versus C9, game of the week, no doubt about it. Also, we'll talk about this in betting, but probably the game to stay away from because these two are going to be absolutely just battling it out, and it'll be great. It'll be fun. Really good League of Legends to watch, starting at 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Really good game. I hope that you guys get to catch it. I got C9 winning this one for the same reason I said before. I think, you got 4 returning players. I think they know how to synergize in big games. I think this is where we might see FlyQuest struggle a little bit just because they're all new players who have never played together and they really haven't fully figured out their support lane. But if for some reason FlyQuest are able to bring this one out, not for some reason, if they end up pulling this game out, then they are a horrifying team to watch. Like, they're doing everything the super teams of the past have wanted to do for years, but just doing it correctly. Then we have Evil Geniuses versus Dignitas. Again, Dignitas look really bad, and I hate picking them to start 0-4 this year, but I don't think that's going to change against Evil Geniuses, a team that I think is one of the best teams in the LCS. Yeah, sorry, Dig, but big loss here for you. TSM versus 100 Thieves. Bjergsen, double lift, getting to stare down TSM. One thing about that is I think TSM might just be on a better wavelength with each other in this game. I mean, this is close to a coin toss for me, but I think if Neo is able to kind of keep up in lane, and I think if Maple is able to also keep up, I actually think it's going to be Solo who's going to be the important player here. I think Tenacity is going to try to overstep, and he may even win lane, but I think Solo understands his role a lot better than Tenacity does right now, and I think that he will be the one to make a game-changing play. And as long as Boogie can keep being at least average to last week above average, especially in that second game, then TSM have a really good shot here. But right now I'm picking TSM. That's where I'm at, and I'm gonna stick with it. I said I'm talking TSM. I'm keeping it the same here. TL versus Golden Guardians. Listen, if Golden Guardians can win this game, I think it will be closer, but I am going to pick TL just because of the fact that I think that they're just too talented to be losing to teams that are near the bottom and have kind of not shown anything different. Again, Golden Guardians have looked better than I expected them to. I think they'll pull out some games, and this could be one of them, but especially if Team Liquid find a way to lose on Thursday, there's just no way they're starting out 0-4. I won't believe it. Last thing here, CLG versus IMT. CLG get right back on the horse. They're just the better team overall. The Immortals in this game really don't stand a chance to me. Moving on to my daily fantasy picks. I didn't end up running my lineups last week. I apologize. I kind of ran out of time, had a few things personally going on, but this week I was able to get my picks in completely, and this is the team I ran with. I started with 100 Thieves versus Dignitas, a very cheap buy here for me. I like 100 Thieves versus Dignitas. Again, I think that they're just the superior team. Then I started working my way up. I like Vulcan versus TSM. You could also go Chime here. I think either one of them would work, but I do trust that Vulcan's going to have a much better week than last year. And as a quick reminder, he also led, and I think had potentially the highest assist total in LCS history in 18 games. So I expect his fantasy points per game to be skyrocketing. Then I moved my way, like always, to the top lane. Again, Someday versus TSM. I think Solo's good. He's going to get you plenty of points, but he gives up a lot in lane. Like, he'll give up a potential kill. He'll give up a lot of CS. He'll potentially give up a tower, and that will allow for Someday, I think, to get a nice lead. He may not be the determining factor in their game, but I think fantasy points-wise, I think he's going to do pretty well. Moving on, Blabber, I felt, was at a great price. Somehow wasn't the number one option there, and against CLG and we'll talk about the games next or tomorrow, or Friday, whatever day it is. C9, I think Blabber is kind of their catalyst to their wins. I think he's going to continue to get a lot of points. I don't think he'll have as explosive maybe as a game as he did last week, but I think that that's to be expected. I thought about Boogie, but I want to see a little bit more out of him before then. This meta just seems perfect for Blabber. I think if you can get him anywhere outside of the top 1 or 2 positions in these lineups, then you should take him. Continuing, went to Vikla and decided to wait, and was like, wait, I need to get my superstar player, and I went Prince. Especially against Golden Guardians, I think Prince has a very good chance to have an absolutely outstanding game here, so picked him, was pretty easy. Then I finished it out with Vikla and Doublelift, both people who I think are going to do well. Doublelift is against Spawn, and maybe Biofrost. I'm pretty sure Biofrost, so it might be Ignar, but regardless, it's not a good lane in Dignitas. I think Doublelift's going to have a great game. Vikla as well. We don't know who's going to be in the mid lane for Golden Guardians. We saw a lot more out of Vikla in his second game. I expect that we'll see that again. As you can see, I used up every point for this game. Now, as a reminder, for the second game, I'm still using the amount of money that was for the Thursday games because they don't have the Friday games out at the time of recording. This one was a little tougher for me, but I don't normally love to stack players if I don't have to, but I think there are times when it's a good idea. CLG is, I think... I gotta remember. I gotta go back real quick. Yeah, it's against Immortals. So this, you got to remember, these games are against different people here. So CLG versus Immortals, I think, is a slam dunk home run. I'm sure they're even going to cost a little bit more. That's why I left the salary a little different, because I think some of these players are going to probably cost a little bit more on Friday than they do on Thursday. But CLG versus Immortals, again, showing C9. That's Thursday game. Friday game, I think that's a slam dunk. I think you take that. Chime, it's TSM versus 100 Thieves here. I think he was just a good value, honestly, and he's putting up points. He's a pretty focal part of TSM's strategy and the way they maneuver around the map. I really like having him here as well. Again, I went with Someday because, well, he's facing Armut, and Armut's good, but I think Someday can take advantage of him, and at that price, you can't really beat it. Moving on, again, I ended up taking contracts. I stacked 3 players from CLG in this game, and I don't regret that at all because I think contracts is primed for a really big year, and against Kenvi and a team that's just so dysfunctional, I can see them giving him the keys to the castle in this game and just letting him go off. So that's who I will be betting on once the Friday games are available. I ended up deciding on FBI because Evil Geniuses are playing Dignitas. I think that the Dignitas bot lane is arguably the worst in the LCS. I don't really think it's all that close, and I think FBI and Vulcan will be able to take care of them pretty easily. So I decided to spend a little bit more and take FBI, who had a great first week. Lastly, I ended up with Harry and Luger. Luger, again, CLG. Tactical didn't look all that great last week. He wasn't bad, but I think Luger is much better than what he even showed last week. I expect them to focus on him a little bit more, get him a little bit more involved. I think that'll be really good. And then, if I remember correctly, yeah, Harry's facing off against we don't know who yet in the mid lane. I think even if Gory comes back and Gory's really good, I think it's still just not going to be enough for them to be able to overcome it. So this is my lineup for now. I think you can switch some players out. I think if you can get better deals than Harry and maybe even Chime, you should look at them. But for right now, depending on how much more this salary goes up, this is where I would be looking. Now we're going to jump over to GG.bet. Now, as a reminder, we are not affiliated with them. You can place bets however you want to, and just know that these odds may change by the time this video comes out. So I am this time not going to just take straight up winners and losers, because here's the reality. I don't think that a lot of these odds, especially for these first games, are all that good. I think CLG might be the only one that I would consider throwing a little bit of money on, because I think you're getting good odds here. I do think CLG is a better team than people think, and while I think Cloud9 is extremely good, if there's a team to knock them off that could be getting these kinds of odds, it would be CLG. Otherwise, I'm not touching Dignitas. I'm not touching Golden Guardians. I love how they have the old logo on there, by the way. Hopefully they can switch that. Not getting anywhere near Immortals. And you could take TSM, but for right now, I'm just not comfortable betting against Evil Geniuses. Instead, something that I am going to do is I'm going to probably take the plus 6.5 spread of kills against Cloud9. I think that this game is going to be a lot closer than people think it is. I think CLG like to keep their games a little bit less kill intensive, and I could easily see Cloud9 pulling this one out by like one, two, three, 4 kills, something like that. Just one last team fight where they, get 15 kills to 11 or something like that. I genuinely, it's hard with spreads for kills just because all it takes is 2 bad team fights and a very close game ends up looking like a blowout because it's 10 kills the other way. But I don't think that happens. I do think this is a pretty close game. I'm going to take the 6.5 here. It's the day 2 that I think you guys got to be looking out for. So first off, you got to take this Cloud9 win. I'm telling you, I think FlyQuest are really good, but like discounting against Cloud9 right now is so stupid to me. I cannot believe they're giving them these odds. I would 100% take this. I mean, look at this. They're even giving them only 2.5 kills. That's not very big of a difference. Yet they're giving them 2.16 in European type, betting style, however numbers that you want to use it for. So I would be taking Cloud9 here as the underdog. The other one I'm taking is TSM. Again, I really think they're underestimating TSM here. The team's 2-0 for a reason. I do think that they're pretty good. Even Jack went on and said, hey, I think C9 or TSM are better than people think they are. I completely agree. I think they're playing well. I think this meta is doing better than I thought it would for them. And I do, again, I see them beating 100 Thieves. That's really about it, to be honest with you. I mean, if you wanted to try some over-unders, generally, just so you know, the higher scoring teams, the only one I was looking at was this over right here at 25.5. FlyQuest were averaging 24.5 kills by themselves just last week. I think that number will come down, but I mean, if they're getting 18 kills and their opponents are getting 8, I guess, then you're hitting the over here. So that's the only other one I would look at. But let me know what you guys think down below. Please, if you've gotten this far, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps us out quite a bit as we're producing content basically every day for you guys. Also be on the lookout for a little surprise. We might have some sports content coming up here much sooner than anticipated. So I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.